A lot to cover tonight. So first of all, welcome again. Thank you so much for joining us for our second installment of What is a Citizen Detective? So this is an ongoing series from Uncovered, just to kind of introduce people in the unsolved case, cold case, true crime community who are interested in being citizen detectives, utilizing their skills for good, to other people who are interested in doing the same thing. So we're fortunate enough tonight to have Whitney and Melissa from Colts Crimes and Cabernet to kind of share their journey to, being a citizen detective, doing research, and then their podcast that they have and the cases that they covered, and just a shared mission of collective impact and utilizing their skills and talents for good. So just to kind of walk you through what that's going to look like tonight, we'll hand it over to them. They'll kind of walk us through their process, their journey. They'll talk about some of the cases that they're working on, the tools that they utilize, and then we'll open it up for questions. So again, it's a small, intimate setting and an opportunity for us to network and meet with each other and get to learn about our processes and hopefully what we can do together. And then also open it up for additional questions if someone's working on a case, someone has a question about a case. We really want to use this time in this space to get to know each other better, to really build a community around what we're trying to do at Uncover is utilize data, technology, and the wisdom of the community in order to fill in the gaps for the more than 200,000 cold cases that exist to find peace, justice, or closure for the families and for the victims. So again, thank you. If this is you returning and you're part of our community, we're excited that you're here. And then welcome if this is your first time. So with that, I'll just kind of walk through quickly to introduce Melissa and Whitney. So what is a citizen detective? It means a lot of different things, but for us, it means people who are coming together collectively to use their talents and their skills and their shared interest in a topic, which happens to be unsolved cases or cold cases, and utilizing those skills for good and filling in gaps in data or leveraging other people's talents and their own talents for a better good. So utilizing research, online research, even doing some research in person when we're able to do that again. But the talents of mapping, desktop research, data components. So a lot of different things, but the idea that you're not a professional, you probably have a day job, but you have this really great hidden talent. So for us, this series is an opportunity, again, to connect people, to kind of show that there's so many other people who are doing this across the country, and then come together and hopefully solve some of these cases, and again, find justice for those victims. So with that, I will introduce Whitney and Melissa.
Okay, so I'm Whitney with Cults Crimes Cabernet. I'm absolutely honored to be here. I know Melissa is as well. We are excited to do this with you guys, and I'm from Texas, so I'm going to apologize for my accent now. Otherwise, later on, it gets a little weird. Now, next slide, please, Ashley, since you're the driver. I wanted to share our mission statement, and I would also like to thank Ashley and Rachel for this opportunity for making us actually put our mission statement on paper. Melissa and I we've come together and we've said, this is what we want to do. This is how we want to do it. And we finally wrote out something that made sense to us. So our mission is to be a trusted resource while empowering others to use their voice and create positive change for victims nationwide. However that looks to you. We are moms, we are real people. I'm a realtor by day and do this by night. So literally anyone can have an impact in these cases. And that's kind of what we're trying to push forward through. Perfect. And then this is Melissa.
Yes, so I am Melissa Lineweber. I am the co-host of Colts Crimes and Cabernet. I like to say I'm just a soccer mom with a not so secret obsession with true crime. Because I let everyone know. If anybody knows me, like in real life and even not in real life, they know I'm a true crime fanatic. I'm up to date on, I would say, most cases if they're in the media, but yeah, so that's pretty much who I am. I'm going to go into a little bit of fun facts about me on the next slide. I have a Bachelor of Science in Business Admin. So that doesn't really help my detective skills as far as having a podcast or anything like that. So, but that goes into my day job so that I can fund my night job. I work for eBay as a business development. I talk to lots of different people all around the country and actually various countries about how to improve their businesses. And then as soon as I get off work, I am deep diving into these cases that haven't been solved. I love to travel. That's one of the reasons why Whitney and we go to the locations of the crimes or the missing person. We like to have those boots on the ground, that feeling of like, this happened here. That's a big statement for our podcast. My husband is very hobby oriented. He has a different hobby every month. I have never really had a hobby until true crime. So now this takes up 95% of my free time, which I'm perfectly okay with. I am an introvert. Whitney is definitely the extrovert in our duo. She gets me out of my comfort zone. I like to be behind the scenes, but as long as I'm talking about true crime, I'm perfectly fine chatting with new people. The Delphi murders is my number one case that I would like to have solved. It's been in the news like crazy lately because, well, in the last couple of days, because they have a new person of interest. If you haven't heard of it, please go to any place and look into it. It's crazy.
And now back to me. So I'm just a mom. I'm a boy mom as well. And I just have an affinity for true crime and wine. I mean, that's kind of bare bones Whitney. Now, here's a fun story. When we were putting this slideshow together, I kept going back to Melissa, don't forget this, don't forget that, don't forget this. Guess what? Whitney forgot to go back and finish her slide. So that gives you a little insight of Whitney. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in mass communications. I have worked in every medium you can imagine, newspaper, television. I directed the news. I kind of did it all, kind of hated it. So I got out and became a realtor. I have 2 boys as well. And true crime is like, it's my comfort zone. And I know that sounds really weird. I think it spurred from the fact that I watched the movie Seven at a very young and inappropriate age and became obsessed with the psychological aspect of true crime. And now that's all I want to learn about is why do psychopaths' brains work this way? Forgive my dog in the background. She clearly has no manners.
One thing, that's the difference. One of the aspects of Whitney and I's podcast is I like to deep dive into the victims and like what happened to them and their lives, but Whitney wants to get into the minds of those that killed. So it's a very good contrast because you kind of have both elements there. I love that about Whitney and I. We're so different, but then we also have so much in common that it just creates for great storytelling.
A little bit about how the podcast came to fruition is our husbands grew up together. They lived 3 doors down from each other growing up. Melissa's husband joined the military and moved shortly after high school. And they, hopped state to state as military families do for a very long time. Once he retired, they moved back to Texas, and the boys rekindled their friendship. And along with that came the wives. Usually your friends come from your husband's friends and things like that. They came over to our house one night for dinner, and the topic of true crime came up again. Melissa's the introvert she is. That's like the first thing that she said was, "Oh, I'm into true crime." It was something she could talk about. And I was like, "Girl, me too." And from the rest is basically history. When COVID started, I was like, you know what? We're stuck at home. Let's just do it. So we spent probably 3 good months of recording episodes. We wanted a backlog because what if one week we don't get together? And we recorded way too many episodes. I mean, way too many episodes. So we had probably, 15 episodes banked before we even put anything out.
We probably should have never even aired those episodes.
Oh, looking back now, we were so naive and not well versed in
Rookie.
anything related to sound quality. I mean, we sat in Melissa's kitchen where there's tile with the children screaming in the background. If you're a new listener to our podcast, we recommend you just skip straight forward to episode 7, where we learned that recording in a bedroom and a closet works much better than in the kitchen. So please just skip those first 6. You're not missing out on anything but a lot of background noise and echoing. Our
Probably some cussing, like no doubt. We're like, just give us 1 hour.
I should mention that we have boys from 15 to 5, so you can imagine the noises that are coming throughout the house at that age group. Now I'm sorry, someone's at my door. So our first episode went live in September. Then very shortly after we went live to the public, we were invited to CrimeCon, the virtual house arrest version, in November. And that's where we met Ashley and Rachel. And it was like the best thing ever in our life that we got to meet them. And they just jumped into our room, and we've teamed up with them ever since. We have not missed a single week for an episode since September of 2020. I think we released our 41st episode this week. We have 2 different styles of episodes. You know, some podcasts have episodic, some focus on one case. We have a little bit of both. We do our regularly scheduled show every Monday, and we just hop state to state to kind of travel within COVID regulations at that point, where we could go around the world, or not around the world, around the nation, and cover cases to just bring them to you guys. And then we decided we wanted more. You know, Melissa is the deep diver. I'm there for it. I love learning about it. So we created the Merlot Files, and that's where once a quarter we do a very deep dive on specific cases. Our first case was Brandon Lawson, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a few slides.
Okay, so citizen detective. All right, I really had never heard this term until we met with Ashley and Rachel and the Uncovered people. Like, I just thought I had a weird obsession with true crime. Like, there was no name for it. It was just like, I heard about something, I wanted to know more, and I researched more. That was the end of it. So, but the textbook definition is an individual who devotes his or her time and expertise, depending on what that is. It could be a multitude of things. They aid in solving a crime without any compensation or expectations for a reward. It is like simply, this is what you do as, I mean, it's more than a hobby, because hobby to me is like, you paint. Like, this is more, this is better. This is, you know, affecting so many people. You're not just painting a picture. You are helping someone's life, helping a family get closure. So to me, well, honestly, until I met them, I would have never considered myself a citizen detective. I just thought, I have a heart. I'm interested in true crime podcast and helping the community any way that I could. So when the idea of telling a person's story, you know, the victim or the family member that's still alive, and getting their story out there, until that came to like fruition with when me and Whitney decided to do this podcast, that was just something that I don't want to say it was unreachable, but it wasn't in my realm. It was like, hey, I'll talk about true crime every day, but am I really willing to put my thoughts to action? So now the more I get into it, the more that I learn, and the more that I meet these amazing people, and I work day in and day out trying to get justice. Honestly, that's the end of it for me. If any case could be solved by seriously Whitney and I just telling information or helping at a honk and wave, that would be the ultimate goal, because there is no other goal. Like, the goal is
Closure.
Them. It's them. Justice for them. So I'm also going to start off with tools of our podcast. Okay, So Whitney and I are fairly new. We haven't even been doing this a whole year yet. We Google, end of story. That's the first thing we go to. We do different types of cases every week, different crimes every week. It kind of keeps things, I don't know, interesting. However, that's kind of where we start. We start very broad. So each of us covers a different state. Let's say I do New Mexico and then I do an arson. So literally when I'm Googling, I will type in New Mexico arson. You're going to get a very, very broad search, and 95% of those are going to be trash and nothing that's going to relate to what you actually want to look into. But you're going to find one. So don't ever stop on that first Google search. You got to do a page or two in before you're actually finding quality, something that's going to relate to what you're looking into. This is just how we do it. If you're looking at a specific case, obviously it's going to be much different. We use articles. Newspaper articles is probably our number one go-to. There's always an article right after the event happened that gives you very broad, basic information. And then as time continues on, you'll see more and more information that's been released. Whitney and I also do Freedom of Information Acts, which you have to apply for and kind of get from people. Sometimes we luck out and they give us information. Sometimes they give us nothing. The class that Uncovered is, do we call it a class? The webinar that Uncovered is going over right now is amazing. It's going to give you guys a lot of tips if you want to learn how to get that information. We use court transcripts. Those can be difficult to read, but I love it when we have those because I trust those the most out of the various other research places we've went to. Uncover.com, they have amazing visual aids. Like if you're a visual person, go to uncover.com. End of story. Like it's going to show you a timeline of what happened that day. It's going to show you, pictures of the person, pictures of the family. It's really, really helpful to kind of put everything into perspective that these are humans. These are people that had kids. These are people that were married. These were real people. We can't just be like, oh, they're entertainment. We use NamUs a lot, which almost got canceled this year, which was like a huge catastrophe because they didn't have the funding they needed. Like how in the world could they not have funding? The Charlie Project, if it's a missing person, we love the Charlie Project to gather information. We really get information from any source, other podcasts, anywhere where we can get information, and that after checking it to make sure that it's like a good source that we can use. A lot goes into it. I would say picking the case is almost half the battle because there are so many cases out there that you want to do that but then you just have time to pick one. So that's half the battle. So we love it when our listeners tell us like, hey, can you do this case? Because I'm like, yes, half the work is over. Like I'll do that for you, and then just start the research process.
So on that, please, if there's some cases that you want covered, please put them in the chat. We will screenshot those and we will add them to our list of things to cover. So if there's one that you're really interested about, please share that with us because we would love to touch on them eventually when we get to that state.
Yes.
Now, our first Merlot Files deep dive was about Brandon Lawson, and Melissa had heard of this case more so than I had. She was already part of the Facebook group for Missing Brandon. And when we first met with Ashley and Rachel after CrimeCon, they suggested Brandon's case because it wasn't getting the coverage it deserved. And there was so many questions to be answered with it. And honestly, it's in our backyard. We drove to it. It was great for it to be so close to us for our first one to actually travel to. It was halfway in between me and Melissa. We both had a 4-hour drive because Melissa's in North Texas, I'm in Austin. And it was like the perfect storm that all came together for us to cover it for the first time. So we went to San Angelo. It was January of this year. We met with Jason Watts. He is the case advocate, and he works a lot real closely with the family. I'm sure you've probably heard him on multiple other podcasts. If you've heard any episode about Brandon, you've heard about Jason, and he's truly a gem of a human being. He was like the kindest person I've ever met. Both of our husbands were like, "You're going to the middle of nowhere to meet a guy? Like, that's weird. Don't do that. I don't like it. Turn your location on your phone. Like, we're not okay with this," but we did it anyway because, you know, that's how we are.
We do what we do.
We do what we do. So we met with Jason, and he painted a picture of Brandon that was just, from that moment on, we knew that we had to be a boots on the ground style deep dive podcast. Like, we knew we needed to meet with the people who loved these individuals who were missing, murdered, kidnapped. I mean, all of the horrible things that you see out there, but we want to be a part of it and want to be a part of making it better. Not just using our voice, we want to use actions to create that. And a lot of these podcasts explain things, like Brandon specifically. One that really irked me, one fact that really irked me, is that in multiple podcasts they talk about how he runs into the woods. If anyone has ever been to Texas, there are no woods in Texas. Like East Texas, there's some tall trees, but there's not woods in Texas. It's brush. It is mesquite trees. That's not woods by any means. It's brush. And that's what it is. So we wanted to go, we wanted to photograph, we wanted to document that this is not woods, this is brush. And it's a little bit different. And to be able to help visualize, like Ashley and Rachel and the whole Uncovered team do, create a picture that's a little bit better. And maybe that can help solve this case by, you know what, they said woods, but now that they say brush, I remember there being a truck on the side of the road where it was real brushy. Like, now it all makes sense. That one little fact could easily click for somebody, and then the case is blown wide open, and perhaps we can get closure and, you know, all the things that every case deserves to have. And this case really gave us validation. It's a 2-part series we did on Brandon. I recommend going to listen to it. There was a 911 call that was truly intriguing. It'll blow your mind. You can't understand it. I recommend listening to it without captions on to create your own opinion and hear the own things that you hear yourself, because there's lots of speculation about what's actually said in this 911 call. But go listen to our episodes. It's great if you're interested on Brandon's case.
Could you all just maybe high level what actually happened in Brandon's case?
Sure, I can. Yeah, absolutely. So Brandon went missing in the middle of the night after a fight with his longtime girlfriend. It was his common law wife, essentially. Texas is a common law state. They got in an argument, and he wanted to go to his dad's house to kind of cool off. His dad lives 3 to 4 hours away. His truck ran out of gas on the side of the road, and it was the point where his truck was over the white line, where the bed of his vehicle was in the lane of the highway. And in Texas, there's a lot of highways. It's not a busy highway, but it wasn't a desolate highway. So people passed by this truck on the side of the highway. He called his brother, asked for gas. His brother was in the process of bringing him a gas can. Brandon also calls 911 and says someone is chasing him into the woods. So police are dispatched. There's some timeline discrepancies, and Uncovered does a great job of lining that out so you can visually see it, because there's lots of back and forth with the timeline on Brandon. He was never seen again. They don't know if he ran deeper into the forest, if he succumbed to the elements, if someone picked him up. There's so many theories out there regarding Brandon, but he was never seen again. He is still considered missing, and the family is still looking for answers. And I highly recommend listening to it and developing your own opinion on this. And if you know of anyone that was in the area, in Texas, the oil field is booming. And that road that he went missing on is a very traveled road for the oil boom. So if you know of anyone that worked in the oil field that may have traveled that area, even if it was the next day or maybe not even in that area, they may know someone. Share this case with them, because they might remember something. It was a very strange, I mean, there's theories out there from, oh, the Mexican cartel killed him off and hauled away his body, to aliens abducted him. Like, every theory you can imagine is out there with Brandon. So please listen to it. Please think about your own opinions on it. If you have any information, I know the family would love it. He has 4 kiddos at home that are missing their dad, that deserve an answer.
Thanks, Whit.
So the next deep dive that we had done was the Karen Bodine case. This is not out yet because Whitney and I just flew to Washington, just a week or 2 ago. So we're still putting together like the final, information about it. So essentially Whitney and I flew to Seattle in January. That's not in January. Oh, that was when she was last seen. Just kidding. I'm like, it wasn't January. So she was last seen January 21st of 2007. So this is a, I don't know if I consider it a cold case because things are still progressing in this case. So we did fly to Seattle a couple of weeks ago. We met with Karen's daughter, Carly, on this case. We were there just for, 2 or 3 days. We ended up walking through Karen's life. We went to her elementary school. We went to her high school. We went to the last place that she was seen alive, which if you listen to our episode, you will learn about what happened there, because that is probably one of the craziest things I've ever experienced in my life. Spoiler, it was crazy. So it was different than Brandon's case for the simple fact that Karen's body was found. Karen was found murdered, literally with just the ligature around her neck. She was completely nude, dumped off the side of the road, just outside of Lacey, Washington. So it was a little bit different being in the spot that her body was found versus the spot that she went missing. These cases did not get a lot of coverage, or the coverage that they should have got, because of past experiences from both of the victims. But in like my mind, like, who cares what they did in their past life? They're still human. Something bad possibly happened to them, so let's figure it out. Ashley, you were part of the CrimeCon Crowd Solve event. It's crazy, isn't it? Like, such a sad case. Her children, Karen had 3 children that are like, they're advocates for her like nobody else, because no one else will do it the way that they, to get her name out there. Whitney and I had done a honk and wave in Washington, which was probably, I'm going to say it was the top 10 events of my entire life. It was inspiring, but like humbling all at the same time. Whitney and I were trying to get these cars to honk, just to read our signs, to kind of just bring awareness any way we possibly could. And at times, like, nobody would honk and we would be like, what's wrong with these people? And then sometimes we would have like at least 45 seconds to a minute of nonstop honking, where like they knew something should be done, and like just getting the voices out there. That's the type of thing Whitney and I like love to do. We love to be a part of any campaign, anything that's going on. Invite us, we'll go. We love to travel and we like to help. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Karen Bodine's case.
One thing I want to say about Karen's case,
Yes.
we went to where her body was found, and we'll talk about this more in our episodes, but the atmosphere is so different when you know something has occurred and you're standing in that spot. The feeling that you get is empowering. That's what we stopped there on the way to the honk and wave, and by God, that was gonna be a honk and wave. Like, I was gonna stop traffic if people weren't honking. I was going to force flyers in people's hands. Like, I was going to make something happen that day, knowing that this woman was left on the side of the road the way she was. And being a boots on the ground kind of person is, we don't want to just use our voice. We're going to create action, and we're going to create a wave in any way possible we can.
I agree. It was a crazy, eye-opening experience that I will never forget. The Karen Bodine case, I swear, like, and I hope it's not just me. I think it is too 2 steps away from being solved. Like, this is so close. Like, let's just get people out there advocating for her. For anybody that knows any information, just report it, because there's an amazing detective on the case right now. And I feel like this is one that could be solved.
So real quickly, I know we're probably like dragging on. You're probably tired of hearing my voice, but what our future looks like is we will be attending CrimeCon 2021 this year. It's in my city of Austin, so thankfully I don't have to travel far for it. We are waiting to hear back if we're going to be on Podcast Row. They keep pushing off the date of the final deadline of who's going to be there and who's not going to be there. And since we're kind of the small tadpole in this big pond, we are last on the list, to be frank. But we've said a long time ago when we got our tickets, about a year ago now, it seems like we had decided at last CrimeCon, we decided we were going to be at this CrimeCon. And we're going to set up in the hotel lobby. We are going to make waves. We are going to be loud. We are going to advocate for any case we can while we are there. In July, we are headed to the True Crime Podcast Festival to again make noise, do whatever we can possibly do. It is in Kansas City, so we are traveling closer to Rachel and Ashley, but not quite all the way there yet. And we hope to cover 2 more deep dives this year. We recommend any and all cases that you think need some extra coverage. Put them in the chat, email us. All of our contact information is here. Natalie, on average, how many hours of prep? And that's a good question. It depends on the case and how much information is readily available. Some cases take longer to research because you have to dig deeper and deeper and deeper. Some cases are well covered and you can get the information you need to cover in an hour-long podcast easily. For our deep dives, it takes, a
lot of time.
I would say well over 200 hours of research time for our deep dives. I think that 200 hours is putting it softly. Mildly? Is that the, I don't know the correct term for lightly, mildly. Yes. I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is. This is Whitney's brain. Sorry, guys. 200 hours is a low ball on that for our deep dives. For our weekly, I would say I spend at least 100 hours on research for our weekly.
Whitney's a go-getter. I probably do 15 to 20. She's crazy. But as far as Kansas City and the True Crime Podcast Fest, we are making that our family's summer vacation. So they don't know, but
I don't know yet.
They're going to be on their own while Whitney and I do what we do. You have to include that type of stuff. You can't, like, you got to manage your family, but you also got to manage your hobby of true crime. So you're like, hey kids, we're going to go to Kansas City this summer for our vacation. And you're
going to hang out with your dad and it's going to be fun.
And your dad, I'm sure there's some great stuff in Kansas City. So you got to make it special. You got to like kind of cover all your boats, like, and just go with it. So that's what Whitney and I do.
We do have season 3 already in progress. We've got the theme of the season. We're not going to share it just yet because we're not even halfway through season 2. I think Ashley and Rachel already know it because I shared it with them in a meeting earlier on. But know that big things are coming for season 3 if you like us to make it that far with us. I mean,
which we hope you do. Like we're just chill. We're just chill.
This is us. I mean, we're real as they come.
Yeah. And this is exactly how we do our podcast, just so you know, and you don't have any really high expectations. Like, it's just us. We chat about the cases. And I mean, we cover information unless it's our deep dives. Our deep dives were a little bit more structured on those, but our everyday weekly episodes were kind of just chill, go with the flow.
Here's all of our contact information if you want to follow us. We will also share this out, and I know that the Uncovered team will share it with this episode as well later. We recommend sharing anything and everything that we can cover because we share it out there. If the world sees it, all it takes is the right person to see it. And I think that's the goal here, is get the information out there. If that's the only tool you have, use it. And kindness only, kindness always, that's our motto. That's what we expect people to be, and that's who we are.
Yes, most of the time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your process, especially those deep dives. I know, especially our team appreciates just your thoughtfulness in the reporting and following up with family members and resources. And, those 200 hours of research are real. So definitely appreciate that. So now, if y'all, this is a great time to unmute or throw it in the chat, ask some questions. I love these questions about research processes, tools that you're using. This is a great time to kind of share that with each other who are here, or what cases that you're following, particularly with Whitney and Melissa. They have another platform. So if there's a case that you've been following for a while, this is a great way to amplify that. And to Whitney's point, get it out there, share it with other people, share it with other networks. That's one of our, definitely one of our missions, is to make sure that we're sharing as much information as we can, as widely as we can, with as many diverse audiences, because you don't know who knows something or who needs to hear it again. I appreciate too, Melissa, you talking about the Delphi case being one that you're following. That's dear to our heart, because for a majority of our team, we're here in the Midwest. So that's a local case for us, but you think more people know about it, but a lot of people even here locally haven't even heard of that case. So as much as you think that people have heard of something, it doesn't hurt to share it, and particularly with content creators who have a bigger amplification platform. It's just a wonderful opportunity. So with that, I'll throw it out there. If there are any more questions that anyone has, if anyone again wants to go off of mute or throw it into the chat.
Also, we're open to tools. If you have any tools that you think we should use, we will take them.
I have a question for you guys. I know I probably shouldn't go first, but I will. So what if I don't have 200 hours to dedicate to solving, I wish I could solve, but to researching a case? What would you guys say that someone could do with less amount of time? Maybe they have 5 hours, 10 hours. How do you think people can make an impact in this area?
I'll take that one, because I feel like I'm always scrambling in my life to catch up to Whitney. So really, any time that you have, if you being a citizen detective is not even actionable. Like, I think it's okay. You have a theory, you start researching it, you kind of go down this rabbit hole, and then you find something, and then you're thinking to yourself, has anybody else thought of this? And you're always second guessing yourself. You're like, I'm sure someone has mentioned this person, I'm sure someone has mentioned this before, but maybe not. It's not going to hurt to just throw it out there, because you never know what your mind will come across, then others won't. I'm crazy introverted, and so I feel like everything that I have to say, someone's already said. I automatically feel like that. And then once I start going in and I tell Whitney, and she's like, I've never thought about that. And I'm just like, what? You haven't thought about that guy as a possible suspect? And she's like, no. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe let's go on further from that. So really, it's just, if you have a 30-minute break in between and you're like, I want to just look at a certain case, just go for it. You never know what you're going to find. I use Reddit just to kind of get what the public is thinking. Because the public, they have questions too, and they have answers, and you would be surprised what some of these people uncover. Just about the Delphi case, over the last 2 days, since there's a new person of interest, I have seen TikToks from the guy, taking his voice and comparing it to the bridge guy voice. I have seen people walking, okay, now here he's walking, look at how it comparison. And some of it's full of baloney, don't get me wrong. You kind of just have to pick and choose, but some of it, could be substantial, and it could very well help a case in the future. So any amount of time that you have to give is worth it.
I agree. No time is too little. 5 minutes here and there throughout the day, or if you have 5 minutes a week, that's 5 minutes you've dedicated to a cause. Throw it out on Reddit, see what other people think. Throw it on your Facebook, see what your family thinks. Throw it out there. It's not going to hurt. Saying something will never hurt unless it's mean. Don't say mean stuff. don't dox people. But if you have an idea or a theory, put it out there and see what other people have to say about it, because it could help.
I love that. Especially being thoughtful in what you're doing and knowing that your actions have consequences. So why people may be going on TikTok and doing side by sides, that's for law enforcement to figure out. Yes. But to be inquisitive and to, consume information in a thoughtful way is definitely important. See, Natalie has thrown a source in here, missingmoney.com. Abandoned property or bank accounts to indicate residence and validate someone's missing, truly left behind. Very interesting. Have you used that before, Natalie, for anything specific, anything case related?
Maura Murray.
Oh, Maura Murray.
That's such a good case. I follow it very closely. Tim and Lance are like my BFFs. They don't know it, but I'm in every Get Vocal and I follow every episode they do. I'm like Crawl Space's #1 fan.
They are so close to saying our name.
So close. But
so close.
Regardless, they're doing big things.
They are. They're just so chill and so like they just want to bring awareness, and it's like it. And I just love them. They're adorable.
Wonderful. 2 untouched bank accounts. Oh.
Ooh.
Muckrock, that's a good one too,
Rachel.
That's
a good one. I do have that one.
Yeah.
Are there any cases that you wish were covered better or more, or what are some of the lesser known cases that aren't out there in the media that you would like us to look at? We are here for that.
And we want a Midwest case because we want Whitney and Melissa to come visit us in the Midwest.
Melissa's like dead set on coming to see the Delphi Bridge. Like we're gonna be there someday, very soon, because she's like, can we go there yet? Let's go this week.
Is it time?
All right, well, we can follow up and we can keep that conversation going to kind of get you guys a short list. We got a little under 15 minutes before we want to wrap up. But one other thing that we wanted to do to be part of this, what is a citizen detective, introducing people to our platform and Uncovered, is kind of walk through what we're building. So if you're new here, I've kind of said it a little bit before, we're building a database of all of the information related to unsolved cases. So as Whitney mentioned, those timelines, those photos, those sources, those maps, pulling it all together so there's one location to come and find verified, accurate information. But then we're also asking the public and providing thoughtful training and a community and a network around uncovering more information and filling in those gaps with the intention that we could get it into the hands of the right people in order to do information with it. Particularly because there are so many cases and that they are individuals. It's not just a number. It's not just this big problem that needs to be fixed, that those are 200,000 individual cases, individual people, individual lives. So making sure that we're victim focused, but we're activating a community that is clearly interested, that, consumes information, wants to learn. So that's what we're creating with Uncovered. But I wanted to give Anna on our team, who is our head of product, just to kind of walk through a little bit of, you may have noticed some changes over the last few weeks, particularly at Uncovered. We have a new version of our site, some really great opportunities for people to learn better, to kind of navigate better on our site, and to be able to provide feedback and information and collaboration. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Anna.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley. So hi, I'm Anna, head of product at Uncovered. And I think I met some of you in the last one, but as Rachel and Ashley are like the Whitney, I'm like the Melissa. I'm like the introvert behind the scenes. So just to kind of put that in context, but I'm really excited to walk through some updates that we've recently pushed to the site. If you haven't seen it in a while, definitely check it out. I'm so excited because the last time I did this presentation, I was showing static mock-ups, but now I'm going to show you real live code. So I'm really excited. So I'm going to walk through these updates and changes. I'll talk through them. But what I would really love is if you have other feedback, if you see things that are missing, things you'd love to see us build, reach out to, you can respond to Ashley, you can email me directly. I'm just Anna@uncovered.com. And we can also set up some time in chat if you want to, give me lots of feedback. I love doing that. So why don't I go ahead and do this? And oh, Ashley, you need to let me screen share first.
Oh, well. Keep talking. I'll do that.
Okay.
Details.
I know. So as you see what we're about to share, we're super excited about it. But of course, we have a lot of, as soon as we kind of push something out, we have a lot of other other features in the backlog we are about to push out even right after this. So lots of things we're excited to share with you all.
Well, it's not letting me do that. Can I drive on my end, Anna? And
it says I
way?
can. It's letting me do it.
JK.
Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, great. Okay, cool. So here, as you can see, again, if it's been a while since you've been to uncovered.com, so, across the site, we've done a whole general aesthetic update. So things look a lot different here. Hopefully more intuitive. Hopefully it's easier for you to find the things that you want to find on the site. So dig in, check out these resources. Again, we'd love to hear your feedback, but I'm going to spend the majority of my time here talking about what we've done in the cold cases, because this is where we've got a lot of new features. So one of the first things we've got here is this updated map. So we've got all the cases that we visualize on the site on this map, because we want people to be able to kind of see where these cases are throughout the country, hopefully moving into Canada soon. But we know that people are really interested in cases that are local to them. I think Whitney talked about that when they talked about, the Brandon Lawson case. And so it's really important for us to allow people to kind of say, this is where I am, this is what's around me. You can click on the map, you can, again, see that case, you could click in, view more. We're hoping to make this a little more functional as we go forward, maybe even put in your zip code, things like that. But this is what we've got for now. So as you go down, of course, you can see all the cases that we've got on the site right now, which is a lot more than we used to have. And that was a lot of work. But we're super excited to get those up here. But we want to make it a little easier to find what you're looking for. So again, we allow you to filter by state. So if you want to look at just the cases in Indiana, you can look at a category of case or decide how you want to sort these cases. And we've also got a couple of these calls to action here. Submit a case. So again, if there's something you want to see that we haven't covered, definitely let us know. We're always love to get submissions. So let's dive into a case, and I'll talk a little bit more about some of the details of the case. So we'll look here at Joseph Smedley's case. So as you can see, we believe that the three big pieces of a case that we want to call out are just the overview, a little bit about the case, a little bit about what happened, and then kind of what they were referring to earlier, the timeline. We believe the timeline is so important. It's one thing to know the details, but to see it all in action. How did it happen? How did things go down? We think it really helps people kind of visualize these pieces. And then the sources. Where do we get our information? How do we know that this is something that actually happened? And of course, if you have a tip, something, we want to make sure we direct you to the right authorities to report it. So all of our cases have that submit a tip button right there. So again, we want to make sure we're really focused on this. This is a person who had a life and who had family and people who love them. So we want to make sure that we're, pictures front and center, really showing who this person was. We've got some information about the person. This is a place where we're going to be expanding here soon, adding more information here, physical characteristics, case numbers, etc. But you can read a little bit about the case. You can see if there's a featured source for the case, so a source we wanted to pull up top. This first section here, the what's left to be uncovered, we're really excited about this. This is new with our new update. This is where, if there's something that the case needs, this is where you can come to be an advocate for this case. So for example, on the Joseph Smedley case, they're trying to get a petition to get Joseph's case reopened. So come here, sign the petition. Or his sister trying to raise money to hire an attorney and a private investigator. So come here, donate money. So we wanted to really highlight, if you do want to be an advocate, if you have 5 minutes, sign this petition, tweet this out. So again, giving people the opportunity to help in any way that they can. As far as trying to understand the case, we think the people are really important. So who are the people involved? A little bit more about them, just so you kind of understand them and the context of the case. And then we get a little bit into the timeline. So again, we believe the timeline is kind of where all of these things come together. It's what happened and where it happened and when did it happen. So I'll dig a little bit more into this timeline here in just a second. But the last piece we've got here is really the case sources. So again, how do we know that these events happened? How do we decide to bring them into this visualization? Excuse me. So you can click here. So if we wanted to, I want to look at this, I look at the source, here it is, I can click in and I can click back. So again, we want to make sure that, any source that we have is very available. We want people to not only look and see what we've got uncovered, but go check the sources as well. So let's talk a little bit about the timeline. This is something we are really excited about. Love some feedback on this. But basically, again, we wanted to be able to tie these things together. What happened and when and where? Because it's one thing to, again, see these things separately, but seeing together is what we've always wanted to do. So you can see here, you can scroll through, see all the events on the timeline. You can click on it. You can see where it happened on the map and kind of follow the progression of the timeline. But also you can get more information. So we have a lot of information to put in this timeline. We didn't want to kind of just shove it all in people's faces. But if you want to get more information about an event on the timeline, you can expand it. You can read more about it. You can see who are the people who are related to this event, because we know that events can happen with multiple people. They can happen in different places. You can see where this event happened. And then you can also see a source for this information. So again, always wanting to tie everything that we have on our site to where that information came from. If you think we're missing an event, you should definitely submit it. Again, you'll see a lot of these calls to action. We want to make sure that, we're putting this information out there, but it may not be complete. We may not have everything. So we definitely depend on our community to keep us honest there. Or flag this event. Did this event happen differently? Do you think that did we get something wrong about this? Or is there something more we need to add here? Reach out to us, let us know. Those are the big updates that I've got to share with you. Again, I'm so excited to be sharing this with you in our live site. But again, we have a lot of other things on the backlog that we're looking forward to, that we're currently building or we're looking forward to build. So if you're not seeing something that you would really like to see, if you have some feedback, please definitely reach out. We again depend on feedback to make this the best product it can be.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Anna. So how many of you have been to the Uncovered site before? Yes, lots of you. Wonderful. So definitely looks different than it did even a month ago. And we're adding more features all the time. We're learning. This is where it's a great process to hear, particularly from you, how you want to consume information in a better way. How is it easy to understand? And what would be a better tool, or what would you like to see, or what other things need to be called out? We know that people are all different types of learners, so it's wonderful to listen to a tremendous storyteller like Whitney and Melissa kind of walk you through a story, but it's another thing to see something and be able to connect it back and to be able to connect it to a source, and particularly if there's a gap in a timeline, or if something needs substantiated or something needs confirmed. That's where we think that the public can really come in to help. And collectively, we could utilize those good skills of, looking at property records or maintaining if someone's actually gone missing, or, even if you're in the area and you're local, you can confirm an address, or, hey, it actually doesn't take that long to travel from here to here. What's this other gap? That's where we think that the next big break is going to come. That's where we think that we can really start to keep these cases in the public eye, particularly for those cases that didn't get the justice that they needed in, the media to begin with, in the community, or even in the justice system. So that's paramount here to the work that we're doing. So we just really appreciate you being interested in this, wanting to learn more, and hopefully continuing on this journey with us as we're building Uncovered for our own community, so we can hopefully make an impact together. So with that,
did you want to mention that our last, I'm mentioning it, I guess, our last webinar in our public records boot camp is tomorrow night. I think there's still a few tickets left.
Yeah, we still have a few seats.
Yep. So if you'd like to join us, they've been great sessions and we have learned so much.
Yeah, and tomorrow the focus is going to be on troubleshooting for denials. So if you've ever filled out a request for public information and you've been denied, this is how you can now go approach that, which will be wonderful. So if you've attended any of them, there's great handouts. The presenters are the National Freedom of Information Coalition. They're amazing experts. They have affiliates all over the country. So they're really interested in getting people excited about information, access to information, and advocating for more open and transparent information for the public. I think I saw someone ask, was it Ashley, about upcoming events? So this is the second one, or the third in that final series for boot camp. And we're exploring other partnerships with other experts. And we're going to continue this series and finding other content experts, other content creators, other family advocates. other policy advocates to kind of come in and share their journey to being a citizen detective, kind of the tools, the cases again. We want to use these platforms as a meetup opportunity to kind of build that networking, but we'd also like to know from you, what do you want to learn? That's how the Public Records Bootcamp kind of popped up. We were all interested in it, but we overwhelmingly heard from people, I don't know how to do this process. This seems so foreign to me. So if there's anything that you've always wanted to know, let us know, and we'll go out and we'll find an expert to kind of come and share, provide information, walk us through that process. I've heard some information, people wanting to know about open source tools, some OSINT training, what that might look like. That might be on the horizon. Even maybe some forensic genealogy. So anything on those sorts of topics that you've ever been interested in, photo analysis, nothing, the sky's the limit. Just let us know and we'll find an opportunity to connect it back to our work and bring someone in, or find a resource that we can kind of share with our community. So I would ask that, and then keep on the lookout from us. You get an email from me every week in your inbox, so make sure that I'm flagged to be at the top of your inbox so you know what's coming on from us, so we can share with that with you more. And then follow us on social too, and then keep coming back to the website that Anna walked you through. We soft launched our community platform, and we're going to continue to invite people there as we're beta testing new features and functions there. And that is a digital workspace for people. So right now we have some really thoughtful people, many whose names I see right in here tonight, working directly with Rachel and doing some case research. So if that's something that you're interested in, raise your hand and reach out to me, and then we'll find an opportunity to kind of work you into our next cohort. And then as we start to expand that, we'll extend some more information and invitations. So with that, we are right at 9 o'clock. Look at that, 1 hour to talk about being a citizen detective. So again, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and be on the lookout not only for me from a wrap up from this event and some distinct calls to action, but ongoing opportunities to get connected with Uncovered, and with all the cold cases out there that need your help. So thanks so much, and we'll see you on the internet.